While I probably don't have to tell you to go watch hits like Dan to Dan, there are several shows that are flying under the radar right now. Every show on this list has less than 100,000 views on Maou at the time of recording. Here are 6 under-the-radar anime for fall of 2024. Demon Lord 2099. In this show, a demon lord named Veltal is defeated at the hands of a hero and is resurrected 500 years later with the help of his most loyal vassal. But now his medieval fantasy world has fused with Earth, and the combination of science and magic has led to a cyberpunk civilization where even the most average citizen can perform the magic that previously only the demon lord could do. In fact, without the magical augmentation that is common for people in this new world, the demon lord finds himself to be perhaps the weakest member of this new society. Even worse, one of his former generals has betrayed him and rules the world by owning the company that produces these new magic implants. But our plucky demon lord is not one to take things lying down, and instead hatches a plan to rise to the top of his world once more using, of all things, live streaming video games. The people who are turned off by this series tend to cite the unpleasantness of Veltal the demon lord as one of the main reasons, but that's not the impression I got of him at all. True, he felt that he was a superior being and that it was his right to rule, but he seemed to behave perfectly reasonably with others as long as they did not directly disrespect him. There were times when his subordinate Machina felt like she had let him down, but he seemed to appreciate the effort that she made, even if the results were maybe not befitting of a king. I also like that he didn't wallow in self-pity. Instead, he just goes right to work, and when one plan fails, he simply moves on to the next. I also really appreciate that the series doesn't fall victim to one of the pitfalls of some cyberpunk shows, where the technology is so advanced that it somehow made smiles and humor obsolete. Just because a show has a futuristic setting doesn't mean that it has to be completely dead serious all the time. By the end of the first couple of episodes, I found the main cast to be quite endearing. I am a little worried that it's starting to juggle a lot of plot lines, and we could be looking at one of those 12-episode shows that just leaves you hanging at the end. But so far, it's been a fun watch. 365 Days to the Wedding. While the JTC travel agency seems like a pretty cheerful workplace, it's not all smiles and travel brochures. Someone is getting shipped out to Alaska to manage the new Anchorage branch, possibly for several years. Now, I've been to Alaska on multiple occasions. My family used to go there for the 4th of July. The moose burgers are good, and the peanut butter pie is great. But no one at this agency wants to be stuck there for years at a time, miles away from Japanese civilization, which is understandable. To avoid this harrowing fate, Takuya Ohara and Rika Honjoji decide that they will announce that they are getting married to each other, since the boss is looking for unmarried workers to make the transfer. The two plan to call off the fake wedding as soon as some other schmuck gets picked for the Alaska job, but of course, their fake relationship quickly becomes more complicated. Now the two have to keep up appearances to a degree that they hadn't been planning on, using social skills that are barely developed enough to operate a vending machine, let alone handle a wedding or pull off a complex con artist scheme. With this show, we get one of those rare unicorns in anime, a well-made rom-com that features actual adult characters. The production is on point, and there are several charming characters beyond just the main pair. Probably my biggest gripe with the show is that Takuya is such a wet mop. His main contribution at first is to allow Rika to do all the work. And there's even a scene where he openly tries to sabotage the entire plan in front of his coworkers because he can't stop wallowing in self-pity, and he wonders aloud if marriage is even worth it. Rika could totally do better. She's a great character with some unique personality traits, and she's pretty easy to root for right from the get-go. Takuya isn't a bad guy, he's just a bit self-absorbed, and there's still plenty of heart and comedy in this anime. If you're into rom-coms, then check it out. Mecha-Ude. I did not expect to like this one going in, but I was hooked in the first 3 minutes. You should know pretty quickly if you're gonna like it, so just start watching the first episode if you haven't. This show is gorgeously animated, with some of the best fighting animation since Vivi Fluoride Eye Song. Now, it doesn't have nearly the story or the character work that that show does, but its fight scenes are really entertaining. Mecha-Ude is about a middle school boy named Hikaru who stumbles across this mysterious and powerful, sentient robot arm that forms a bond with him, allowing the two to fight off the bad guys. The robot arm has amnesia, of course, so it can't remember its past or even what it is. There's a couple of shadowy organizations involved in hunting down these robot arms, or Mecha-Ude, and the bad guys quickly find our heroes and put them in danger. Fortunately for them, Aoki shows up, a girl who can apparently pass for middle school age, though I'm not sure if she's actually that young or not. She's a powerful fighter who's partnered with 2 of the robot arms, and she seems to switch between saving the protagonists and fighting them so that she can capture Hikaru's robot arm and bring it into her organization. After a couple of close scrapes, Hikaru goes back to school only to find that Aoki has infiltrated the class as a mysterious transfer student. The plot is nothing original, at least so far, and part of the reason I hesitated watching it was that it sounded like a Parasite the Maxim clone with robots instead of aliens, a younger cast, and a lot less blood. But what it is a show that runs on pure adrenaline and sets a fast pace from the very beginning, which it has managed to keep up so far. I've been surprised with how much I've liked it up to this point, so I recommend that most people give it a chance, especially if you like fast-paced action animation. Magilumiere Magical Girls Incorporated. Magilumiere girls ask the question, what if magical worlds were run like any other business, with competition between companies and bigger businesses trying to swallow up the little startups? The answer is, it would be pretty entertaining, especially if the animation, artwork, and sound were all high quality. That's what you get with Magilumiere Girls on Amazon Prime. We follow Kana Sakuragi, a recent college graduate, as she tries to get her first job in the corporate world. Like a lot of graduates, she's got more book smarts than real-world experience, and she's finding it tough to break into the professional world. That is, until she helps out a charismatic magical girl, or magical woman since she's well into her 20s, named Koshigaya, and she's invited over to the starting company that Koshigaya works for. The eccentric owner of the business, a man who loves magical girls so much that he dresses like one every day, takes a liking to Kana and hires her on the spot. We watch Kana as she starts learning the ins and outs of the magical girl business, while the shady Megacore AST Co. Limited seems to be working on some devious scheme in the background that our underdog startup company will likely have to deal with in the future. Kana finds that her book learning is an asset at her new company, as she's able to adapt to new technology pretty quickly. Because in this world, the magic of the magical girls acts more like a software app than some mystical inner force. But my favorite part of the show is the brash and confident Koshigaya, who loves nothing more than to charge headlong into danger without thinking too much about the consequences. She makes a great pairing with Kana's more restrained lead role, and the show's been a blast to watch so far. Give this one a try if you have any tolerance for magical girls, and especially if you're a fan of the genre. NEGAPOSI-ANGLER. I don't have much interest in fishing, but I do like a good anime with a chill vibe, and this one's got that. It doesn't start out that way, as Tsunehiro Sasaki finds out that he's got maybe 1 year left to live. Although it kinda sounded like the doctor in that scene was saying that he would die if nothing was done, so I think the door's open for Tsunehiro to find out that he's got plenty of life left to live. Although that would be a pretty jarring bait and switch if they went that route. Tsunehiro himself sees no hope in this situation, and he jumps into some pretty destructive behaviors like trying to take his own life or rushing headlong into debt. When some of those debt collectors chase him into the ocean, he gets reeled in by a group of fishing hobbyists and is slowly drawn into their world. Tsunehiro can be a pretty negative character most of the time, but I do appreciate that he's not magically cured of all of his cynicism as soon as he catches his first fish. The rest of the fishing group is an interesting mix of all kinds of people, and I like how the show uses different art styles to represent them. Probably about 50% of why I'm watching this show is for Hana's hair. I'm fascinated by it, and she's one of the standout characters for me. I'm guessing she's the positive angler from the title, since she's always full of energy, though she's by no means a sugary sweet Genki girl. She's just really into her hobbies, which are fishing and one-upping Tsunehiro. Takaki is the other standout character in the show for me. I like that he can dump all his baggage onto Tsunehiro and help him out at the same time. He's the kind of guy that, because he's always smiling, you never know quite what he's thinking, and he's usually got some plan or ulterior motive in the works. You will get the obligatory fishing tutorials that come with this type of anime, so people who like to fish might get a bit more out of the show than the rest of us. But I've been enjoying it, and I haven't been fishing in probably 20 years, so check it out if you want a slice of life show with a relaxed pace that's not too sugary sweet. Yakuza Fiance. This show is unhinged, and that's why I love watching it. It always keeps me guessing because our two leads are willing to do just about anything to get what they want. I need to point out right away that if you saw the artwork for the show and thought that this would be a lighthearted romance with a mild gangster theme, that's not it. This is a Yakuza movie turned into anime form that happens to have a romance in it. And the term romance is stretched pretty thin here. It's more like a codependent revenge fest. Crunchyroll rates it TV-14, which is nuts. This is a show that has a guy stabbing someone in the eye with a fork in one scene and going down on a girl in another scene. It's a mature-rated show that can ramp up the blood and violence in an instant. Now, if you're okay with that, this anime is a lot of fun. Yoshino Some is kind of like a Yakuza princess who has lived a sheltered life in Osaka, where her family crime syndicate pretty much runs the whole city. Her grandfather, who's my favorite character and we don't get enough of him, ships her off to Tokyo to see if she would make a suitable match for Kirishima Miyama, the grandson of a rival Yakuza leader. Things turn sour between Yoshino and Kirishima pretty early in the first episode, and Yoshino starts plotting her revenge to steal Miyama's heart within the year and then dump him at the end. But it turns out that Miyama is completely into her new rage-filled personality and falls in love with her. Or so he says. He's the type of character who's got a lot of schemes going on at once, and telling her that he loves her is probably one of those schemes. Watching these two try to outsmart each other and out-scheme or out-violence everybody else has been really satisfying to watch so far. It helps that the production values are pretty high quality, and just about every character looks like they hopped off the pages of a fashion magazine. I'm looking forward to seeing where this one is headed. There are a couple of bonus shows that I don't know if I can fully recommend for everyone, but they're worth mentioning anyway. The first is Acro Trip. It's another take on the magical girl genre, like Magilumiere girls, but I will admit that the production values are not nearly as strong. The twist in this one is that Chizuko, the show's protagonist, becomes obsessed with her town's local magical girl, Berry Blossom. But the villain that she has to fight is so inept that Chizuko has to join his side and become an evil general in order to make the battles even halfway decent. The bumbling evil lord, Chrome, is pretty hilarious because he's relentlessly positive while still trying his best to be evil, even though his idea of a nefarious plan is to flip over the welcome mats at the convenience store. I love the little touches in each character's personality, like how Chrome always calls Chizuko by her full name, never Chizuko or Date Chizuko-san, always just Date Chizuko. His bear minions are pretty adorable too. It's nothing groundbreaking, but if you want a lighthearted magical girl comedy and can forgive some of its limitations on the production side, then this one can be pretty charming. The second show is Orb on the Movements of the Earth. I feel like this one is fairly well known, but it still has a surprisingly small number of viewers for a decent anime on Netflix. If you haven't heard of it, the show is set in a fictional version of Poland around the 1400s, and it's inspired by the real-life debates about whether the Earth or the Sun was at the center of the universe. The art and animation in the show is fantastic, and the attention to little details about astronomy show that the people who made this are passionate about the science and history of that time. But as much as I personally enjoy astronomy, I can't shake the feeling that instead of a show about astronomy that includes some torture, this feels more like a show about medieval torture that includes some astronomy. Much of the tension in the show involves a clash between religion and science that is even more dangerous for free-thinking scientists than our own world was back then. But a lot of people have been enjoying Orb, so if you're hearing about it for the first time, check it out and see if it's for you. So those are some of the under-the-radar anime for fall of 2024 that I think are worth looking into. Let me know in the comments what you think of these, or if there are any hidden gems out there that I've missed. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.